So in our session today, I just want to start a little bit talking about where VR is today. Because if you haven't looked into VR for a while, or if you haven't been paying attention to some of the things that Meta has been doing, you might think that building for VR is tough. And it's tough because the store is too crowded, right? Or the setup is painful, or that you need some really specialized knowledge to start building for VR. Or that the AI wave that I think the whole industry is experiencing hasn't reached VR yet. Those are all assumptions that we hear, and some of them might have been true a few years ago, but we're here to take a closer look into them and talk about how the platform has changed, how the platform has evolved, and what Meta is offering for developers today. My name is Mike, I'm a product manager at Meta, and I have two very good colleagues with me today, Kirk and Alex, and we're gonna walk you through a little bit about the development journey and the workflows of how those have evolved during the last few years, and what you should be thinking when you're building for VR today. Let's start with the basics. The VR market is growing. MetaQuest is the biggest player in the VR space. We have over 1 million Horizon Plus subscribers. This is our subscriber program for new gamers that come into the platform and they want to experience high quality games with a subscription model. We have invested over $150 million last year in many initiatives, including the very successful Star Developer competition. And we see that the market is growing. One stat that I think is very interesting is that 30% increase of in-app purchases last year. And not only that, we see some big, super successful titles coming every year. You might recognize or played some of them. But the ecosystem is growing and the ecosystem is thriving. Now, when it comes to building and the developer experience itself, right? There's a session later on today at GTC that is called I've Built the Wrong Game. You probably don't want to have that session, but many developers figure out that once you start building your game and release it, gamers might not react the same you expect them to react. So what's really important is to increase your velocity, to be able to release sooner, get feedback from the market, and iterate based on what the audience thinks about your game. The developer giving that session is one of the most successful ones we had in the last year, so I definitely recommend you check that out. But the point is, we want you to be able to build faster for the platform, and we're providing you the tools to really enable you to do that. Now, we know that one of the things that slow you down is sometimes the quality of some of our tools, some of our experiences. So we're still trying to drive that, trying to drive improvements in that area as well. Let's talk a little bit briefly about the different development paths. I know some of you have built before, but for those that are looking to get into VR and haven't built before, we have a very popular Unity SDK. It's on the Unity Asset Store. It includes most of the tools and APIs we're going to talk about today. We're also supporting AR Foundation, which is Unity's cross-platform framework. And we also offer plugins for Unity, for those Unity developers here. If you have a 2D Android app, it's mostly apps and experiences, and you're thinking of bringing it into the Horizon Store, we also offer a developer pathway there. Now, let's get to know a little bit the core tools. Many of the tools that you'll hear today are available mainly for Unity developers. They're part of the Meta all-in-one SDK available on the Asset Store. Some of them are available for Unreal developers as well. But I really want to give a quick update of what the tools available are, what has changed recently if you haven't looked into them for the last few years, and how they help you fast-track your development. So again, you can get those insights faster. You can understand your audiences faster. You can fail faster, so you can find your pathway to success. Starting with building blocks, which is our way of letting you discover and start using Meta XR features directly into your Unity project. You can explore all the key concepts like mixed reality building blocks, multiplayer, and specific building blocks for immersive experiences. Kirk is going to talk a little bit more about the newer building blocks that focus a lot on AI and how do you get LLM functionality super easy into your game, and pass-through camera access, a feature that I know many of you have been asking for a very long time. It can be complicated to build, but with building blocks, we made that a lot easier. Kirk is going to go deeper on that. We see building blocks as a starting point for your full development project, but also a quick way to explore and prototype with those newer device capabilities. They're fully customizable, so you can just right-click on one of the building blocks. It's a prefab, very basic Unity concept, and you can really decompress it. So you can continue building and customizing the feature once you drop the building block into your project. In the past few years, we've released great building blocks around multiplayer, making those experiences a lot easier to build and mixed reality. The building blocks are available on the all-in-one and on the core SDKs. Now, why does it matter? Because we know that using some of these tools and experimenting faster helps developers find success. 4 out of the 5 highest revenue apps released between Meta Connect 24 and Connect 25 have been using building blocks or project setup tool, one of our other core tools, during their development. So we know that they're not just nice to have, they help developers find success. That's why we're focusing a lot on developing them further. Another tool that got a big revamp this year is Meta XR Simulator. The tool has been around since 2023, but this year we completely revamped the user experience and made some of the features that you care about a lot easier to use. We also focused a lot on quality, so crashes, things that can be buggy. We try to fix all of those, and you can get the latest version on the Unity Asset Store. It's really good for use cases like multiplayer, and we know developers like Julian, who has built laser tag, is using it for quickly testing those multiplayer user experiences. I see developers using it for everything but the core interactions, but everything else that you need to quickly test without putting the headset on, it's a really, really good tool. The latest version is updated with our SDK, and we also have a new simulator for Android developers also available today. Quickly, I want to mention one other tool that we released very recently. It's called Meta Asset Library, which comes with over 1.5 million free assets. This is a really great starting point for you to start prototyping. If you want to get an idea to a playable state and you don't want to invest too much time on sourcing the right assets, it gives you a very quick pathway to finding the right asset. We see teams using it mostly for prototyping. You're free to use it even later in your development project, but again, we see this as a great first step towards testing your idea. One last tool I want to mention before I pass it to my colleagues is Runtime Optimizer. We know that we have a lot of different performance improvement tools, which if you're an expert in graphics, you can really get the max out of the device, right? You can optimize all sorts of different levels of your game. But we also know that if you're newer to the space or you just don't have the expertise in-house in your team to fully optimize your game, performance optimization is a big challenge for many studios. So that's why we released Meta Runtime Optimizer for Unity, which helps with 3 main capabilities. One is bottleneck analysis, one is a what-if analysis, and the material analysis. What those do is they make temporary changes to your project and analyze the trade-offs for you. So you can have a more clear picture of what it's costing you, what costs you in terms of performance if you were to change some of those elements. I'm going to go very quickly on how to use it. You saw where to find it. It's a different asset on the asset store, and you can capture frame while you're running your app. Then you can run the bottleneck analysis on the capture you just had. Has anyone used Runtime Optimizer so far? We have one guy, so I'm great that the foot is here. So you can go to your team and suggest that they give this a try. And then here you will see the final analysis and the guidance of what you should be doing. You can click the what if to rerun the capture with small sizes to assess the impact of what you have changed here. We think it should be the first stop on your performance optimization journey, right? You're still inside Unity. You can use Unity's runtime tools, which are great. But if you want to take the first step towards understanding the performance impact of some of what you're building, Runtime Optimizer really helps you with that. If you scan the QR code, you'll go to our documentation page where you can read more about the tool, including information on how to download it. I'm going to leave it up for another second. It's a different package on the asset store. So if you go to the meta page on the Unity asset store, you can see all the packages that we have available. Now, to recap, some of the tools that we talked today to help you find success with our devices. Building blocks, super easy way to get started, prototype, figure out how you get a creative vision into a project that you can showcase to your team, to your investors, to your colleagues. You can use asset library to drag and drop assets as well, over 1.5 million of them for free. And Runtime Optimizer to start understanding the performance trade-offs of what you're building. We also have a big update to MetaX Simulator Live now with all new developer workflow to make it easier to test your game or your experience without putting on the headset. And yeah, I'm going to pass it to Kirk, who's going to go deeper to some of the Quest features that we have available for you. Thank you.
See, they're all clapping for me, Mike. How about that? Okay, hello. My name is Kirk Barker. I'm a product manager, and I'm responsible for a number of the SDKs that we provide to you. Today, I'd like to talk to you about some of the new Quest features that have been developed within the past, let's say 6 months or so, or released within the past 6 months, that we really think will help you a lot in your development. Let's start off with hands. Now, not hands, everybody raising hands, but earlier when Mike asked how many of you have been developing in VR, I think probably 80% of you said you'd been around for more than 3 years. How many of you guys tried hand tracking 3 years ago? How many of you really enjoyed hand tracking 3 years ago? Okay. Let's be honest with you. It really kind of sucked 3 years ago. The good news here is that we've gotten a lot better. So hand tracking is now at a point that it really can be used to interact with system menus and work well in a variety of situations. More importantly than that, or at least now, it's probably not more importantly, but as importantly as that, is we've released a new UI kit with the Interaction SDK, which kind of standardizes those interactions. Now, the nice thing about standardizing the interactions is the users will get used to how they work, right? Okay, here's a button. Oh, I should be pushing that button, or I should be sliding that button, or here's a macro gesture I should use. As the more and more games understand those basic interaction paradigms, then it's easier and easier for your users to come on board with them. The OS is also using the same type of paradigm, so if they're used to it in the OS, then they come into your game and they look at it there, then it basically works for them and they understand how it should work. Also, it's really nice because it doesn't break the immersion. You're not, poking down on your wrist or some other part of your body to open up a menu and do something different. It's a panel that can appear to you right there in the 3D space where it can be immersive and can be interacted well. Now, of course, the way these look in your particular games will be totally customizable, and you'll do exactly what you want with those. But this gives you an idea of the kind of standard we're trying to push around, trying to provide to allow you to interact seamlessly with the users. In addition to that, one of the things you should really try out are the Surface keyboards. The Surface keyboards are now working and working very, very well. And what these are is you can project a keyboard onto a flat surface, and then the user just types. Nothing special, no pointing individual characters in the sky to get the interface in. And so they're really useful. If you haven't tried them out before, please take a look at them. Virtual Camera Publisher. Kind of worried about that, the way that video looks right there, but we'll get to that in a second. What the Virtual Camera Publisher is, isn't a camera itself. The camera that you would have is in your game. So you define a camera in your game. Maybe you've defined a drone camera that flies around behind the player, or a selfie camera that is in front of the player. Whatever it is, you've got the camera defined within the game in a way that makes sense for your game. Now, what the Virtual Camera Publisher API allows you to do is now publish that out through the standard infrastructure for the camera within the Quest game. So the same way that you go into the headset now and you do record or record a video or cast, that's now open up to you from within your game. And so people will get used to, or at least our hope is, people will get used to expecting that and then sharing the content of a game from within the game itself. And that's really cool for all the developers, because the developers then the users start sharing it online, people get interested in it, and we hope by sharing a lot more media of your game, people will be more interested in it and it'll uplift your overall engagement. Now, some popular apps like Animal Company have already integrated this. So I wanted to show you the clip from a promotion on YouTube for Animal Company with this, and then I'll mention a few things about it, if this video works.
This is Animal Company's new camera. Only given to Drip Department members for the moment, so you guys can see there's a bunch of buttons you guys can see. Similar to Gorilla Tech's Live camera, but here's what everything does. Third person mode works as a third person mode. You can change the distance and the smoothness of your video and even the FOV if you wanted. FOV goes up to 120, the distance goes up to 10, and smoothness goes up to 1. First has smoothness and FOV, it's the same settings. And selfie mode is a little bit different with having the distance for this new follow mode that will actually follow you and stuff. You can also dictate the smoothness of your things and the FOV of your actual recording as well. And of course you can switch it between, as you guys can see. To actually get your footage to show up on the camera, they have this little tutorial on the camera to show you exactly how, and it's very simple. All you need to do is go to your camera app in your actual Quest, and then you'll need to go to camera settings, go to camera view, and you'll see it there to actually switch it. And if you're sick and tired of the camera, you can hide it with this little hide button right then and there. Super easy to grab as it's right there by your watch, and this is of course how it's looking like. AC Cam 9000. We have the eyes that actually move whenever you move, and we got little butt cheeks. Here's how it looks like whenever it's actually recording on the Meta Quest, and what are your guys' thoughts on this new Animal Company camera?
Okay, what's really cool about that is it's a good implementation of a camera in a game. Pardon me, of a camera in a game. It fits into the overall gameplay. It makes sense in that game. It's kind of funny. It's got the little eyes up at the top and the little butt cheeks on the back, and it really fits into their play. But again, the advantage of it is as people start using this and sharing the content, hopefully it'll uplift your game, get more promotion for your game. Feel free to check it out, and we're really excited about it. MRUK. How many people here have used MRUK? Oh, wow, well, a fair number. I'd say about 30%. So MRUK stands for Mixed Reality Utility Kit. And what it does is it pulls together a number of features that allow you to design better in mixed reality. It provide helper features like stabilizing the world and doing different things like decorating the particular scene you're in, interfacing with a scene API, interfacing with a depth API. But newly introduced to it, we started to see the overlap between the types of things you would do in mixed reality and the uses of the pass-through camera. So we took the pass-through camera API, which gives you access to the forward-facing RGB cameras, and we integrated it into MRUK. So now it's really super easy to just use it to access the pass-through camera. I'll talk more about pass-through camera and some improvements there in an upcoming slide. The next thing we did was something called seamless world locking. So one of the problems in mixed reality is, let's say you're in a large room, well, not a large room like this, but a large room like maybe your bedroom. And you set an anchor in one end of the room, and then you move over to the other end of the room, then your accuracy of that object and the position changes as you walk away from the first one, as you move away. And you move to that second one, and now suddenly it has a more accurate position from the second one. And what that causes in an MR game is a jump in continuity. So suddenly it's repositioned, and it's very jarring to the user. So what Mixed Reality Utility Kit did was they have something called world locking, where we take those positions, we get the closest anchor, and we average it over time, so or as you're moving over motion, so that you don't have those sudden jerks and continuities. Previously, that was dependent upon the Scene API. But one of the trends we're seeing in mixed reality games is you want to define an MR game, but not necessarily use everything in the room. You don't necessarily need to know that there's a refrigerator there or a bed there for your gameplay. So a lot of the mixed reality games that are coming out now will place a few portals around the room or a few objects around the room as opposed to identifying everything in the room. What seamless world locking allows you to do is have those stable, not move around, have all the same capabilities as world locking did before, but without requiring full scene discovery before it happens. So we think that lowers the bar of entry for a lot of these MR games and shortens the time to fun. We've also integrated QR code detection directly within MRUK now. That gives you two things. First of all, the content of the QR code itself might be a code or something that you've used in the game to open up a capability or whatever, or a promotion that you've got from, that could be read from an iPhone or whatever. So that's one case. But the case in MR you can also do is fiducial tracking, which means I can pick up that QR code and I can tell you where it is. It's at a particular space in this area that you're in and a particular location. It'll give you that precise measurement so you can use it to very precisely locate our, objects as they exist within your real space. Okay, I said I would talk about pass-through camera improvements, so I'll do that now for a few minutes. So first of all, we increase the resolutions that you get with the pass-through camera. The previous high resolution of the pass-through camera API was 1280 by 960. So it didn't give you the full field of view that you would have in looking through pass-through normally. By moving to the square 1280 by 1280, you now can see almost all of the field of view that you see through the headset itself. And what that really allows you to do is you make sure that if you're doing object detection or something like that, when something comes into the field of view, you can really detect it. It doesn't have to come into a smaller field of view that's being used by the camera. We also made it a lot faster. We've got to sub 30 millisecond latency, and we can now run at 60 frames per second. So 60 frames per second is important for objects that are moving fast. As most of you probably know, sports shows are broadcast in 60 frames per second. So anytime you have an object that's moving fairly fast, you need something faster than 30 frames. It now supports 60 frames per second. We also changed the permission structure. So part of the feedback we got after our first release was, hey, why don't you just define this thing as a standard rear-facing camera? Because if you do have a standard rear-facing camera from an Android perspective, I can take any Android app, put it in, and it basically works. So this opens up a lot of possibilities. If you have apps that have been published on Android, you can bring them in and they'll work, pretty much without changes to put them into the Quest infrastructure. Finally, we added a number of building blocks specifically to allow you to have object detection and integration with LLMs. Now, I'll talk about this or show you a slide of it in just a second, but I want you to think for a moment of if you were building an app that you wanted to interface with an LLM, what would you need? I'm not going to really make you answer that. I'm just making you think about it for a minute. Okay, so the first thing I would want is I would want something that would take my speech and translate it to text, because then I can have something I can forward over to the LLM. The next thing I would want is I'd be able to grab an image from the room I'm in and send that image with it as well. Finally, I would want some capability to hook up to the LLM, and then when I got the response back, I would want to translate that back from the text that LLM is going to give me into speech so that the person can hear it in their ear. The nice thing about these building blocks is you can now do that with 3 clicks. So you can add on, or 4 clicks actually. You can add on pass-through camera with 1 click. You can come down, add a large language model, speech to text, and text to speech with just 2 more clicks. So a total of 4 clicks, if I counted that right. And you can have this set up to work with the LLM. Now you still have a few more clicks. You still have to go through, and there's a profile setup that you have to enable a key on for both the speech to text and also the LLM, but that's it. And so in less than, I'll say 10 minutes, you could set up and have an application working with speech to text, image detection, and an LLM, just really, really super easy. Now, why would you want to do this is perhaps part of the question. And so let me talk to you a little bit about that now. I'll show you a demo of one here interacting with the LLM. But these applications are really best when you can put them in the context of your game. I'm going to show you a generic slide here that shows it interacting with ChatGPT. But if you can put it in the context of your game, if you give you extra context for the LLM to interpret, then it can be a lot more interesting. You can say things like, hey, you're a magical wizard, and what you're looking for in this place is this, and you should react in this way, and you should be grumpy. And by giving that kind of context to the LLM, it can then respond back in a way that is interesting for the particular gameplay that you would like to have. Let me just go ahead and show this slide, and then I'll talk a little bit more.
The city shown on the screen appears to be Tokyo, recognizable by the Tokyo Tower and Mount Fuji in the background.
Can you tell me more about Tokyo?
Sure. Tokyo is the bustling capital of Japan and one of the most populous metropolitan areas in the world. It's known for its mix of traditional culture and cutting-edge modernity.
Welche Stadt siehst du auf dem Foto?
Die Stadt, die auf dem Bildschirm angezeigt wird, scheint Tokio zu sein, da der Tokyo Tower und der Berg Fuji sichtbar sind.
So, number one, that's really impressive. It's amazing that that even exists in this world. But what's really nice about it as well, you could hear at the very end, he changed it into German and it just picked it right up. So it's also kind of inherently multilingual. So a lot of that type of customization you don't even have to worry about. Where do we see uses for this? Well, we've seen a lot of people start to use this in some very interesting areas. One, language learning. There's a few apps out there now that use this specifically for language learning. Things like identify objects in the room, name them, and then you progress forward. Or use, this chair in a sentence in Spanish. Home improvement, board game tutorials, and even remote assistance. So there's a lot of possibilities in using this type of technology. And as I mentioned earlier, we've made it so easy. It's 4 clicks plus setting up some API keys. Okay, next I would like to hand over to my colleague Alex, who is going to dive into supercharging your workflows with AI. Alex?
Right. So AI has been knocking at our door for quite some time now, but today it's becoming essential in our daily lives. We're at an exciting moment where we can harness the power of AI to supercharge our development workflow and unlock the new levels of creativity and productivity. I'm Alexandre Vierge, a software engineer passionate about empowering developers in their journey. Our team has been working hard on boosting developers' velocity by integrating AI into our workflows, tools, and processes. Let's take a look at some of the innovative tools that we've built to help you move faster and smarter. First, at the end of last year, we released our Horizon OS MCP in our MetaQuest Developer Hub, also known as MQDH. This MCP, if you connect it to your favorite AI agent, you can now access information faster than ever, and it's tailored specifically to the MetaQuest development across all our supported platforms. Some of the key features, additionally to the documentation, are smarter debugging tools to instantly access Logcat, a screenshot, and monitor performance, as well as an asset library, as Mike mentioned earlier. Through these tools, you can access the millions of assets that we have to integrate directly in your projects to make your prototypes stand out. And all that with simple natural language. With these tools, you can focus on building and less on searching, unlocking a smoother and more creative developer experience. So let's talk a little bit about this tool. So how it works with the AI is you'll prompt or query into your AI assistant. You'll have your tool selection. So the AI will take a selection, select the right tool for you, and then execute that on the MCP level, and then return back with a response in natural language. Let's look a little bit about the different tools. So we have documentation tools, which will fetch the documentation that you're really looking at your specific topics to get that information. So then you can also get information about your device and interact with your device directly from your AI assistant. Performance analysis is really key to have good and smooth experience in your development. So we have some tools that will help you with getting Profeto traces and really look at that and pinpoint exactly where you can improve your projects. And as I mentioned, assets, effortlessly search for assets and return FBX or GLB files that you can then import high-quality models into your projects. These streamlines your workflows so you can focus on building, testing, and iterating. How do you set it up? You get MetaQuest Developer Hub, and you go to the Settings menu, and then AI Tools tab, where you can select the AI assistant of your choice and follow the simple instructions on how to install it. Next, let's talk about Unity AI Gateway. This is the new Unity AI assistant that is currently in beta, and we work with Unity and collaborated with them to make sure that it's available for XR development. Let's talk a little bit about what the AI Gateway is, and basically it enables you to control your Unity from your AI assistant by having direct actions to it. So you can have scripting where you can write, edit, and modify your code and update and have a faster coding workflow. Game object and scene management to create, modify, move, and organize your game object and your scenes. Asset management to really all your project assets like prefabs and scriptable objects, and then the editor level actions where you can control menus, menu actions, and play stop mode, and capture screenshots to evaluate and then reiterate. This unlocks a whole new level of faster iteration on your development and can focus on what is most important for you. What's great about the gateway and our collaboration with Unity is that we made sure that it would be extensible and to make sure that we can add more tools that are related to your XR development. And we created the Meta XR Unity AI Gateway extensions, which is an open source repository on GitHub, where we added specific tools tailored for your VR experience. So we have tools currently for 2 SDKs, the core SDK as well as the interaction SDK. Specifically, you can add camera rigs, get the information of your configuration for XR, and update your Android manifest when necessary when you change your configuration, as well as interaction SDK to add the interaction rig and make objects grabbable, distance grabbable, create locomotion with teleport hotspots, and interaction with your canvas for UI with ray and poke interaction. We're continuously working on adding more tools and make sure that all the actions you want to do will be available. So let's look at a little demo, an example of how we can add grabbables to specific objects in a scene using AI agent. So here the objects cannot grab them. We have a picnic and a tennis ball, and then we can ask to make the basket grabbable. And it's gonna set up the game object with the right components. And then we want the ball to be grabbable from a distance, and we'll actually do the same. So you don't need to go and search the information to how to do it. The AI will actually know how to do it for you. And now we have the basket that works. and we can grab the ball from a distance. And here's another example where we combine the Horizon OS MCP with the Unity AI Gateway, where we get the information we want for all our AI for all our XR development and the tools to build the game in Unity. We have a demo on how we build a Whack-A-Mole prototype developed using only a couple prompts and using the asset database that we talked about earlier. So through this experience, we really wanted to show how we can ask the AI to do multi-step process and test out our game, and then ask to add more features like timer and state, and then use the assets from the asset library to really build the whole environment for this experience. And then we updated the table. And finally, we have the full game playable directly in the headset or with XR Simulator with teleportation for locomotion. You can get access to the Meta XR Unity Gateway extensions from our public repository on MetaQuest/Unity-MCP-extensions. I'll leave it for a second. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about today is our Agentics tools. So we have a new repository with Agentic tool for all your development needs for the MetaQuest development. It contains skills and plugins for the various AI assistant that will focus on the actual platform that you want to develop for. We have some for Unity, for WebXR, and multiple more. So I hope you can enjoy those skills, and more is to come also on that platform, on that forum. Finally, we had our 401 session yesterday. That was a deep dive on our approach with AI and the agentic workflow. So if you're really interested in our AI roadmap and what we're working on, I suggest you catch the recording of that. Also, we invite you to come see us at the Meta booth in the exhibition, as well as if you have any questions for us. So leave it to some Q&A. We have a mic here if you have questions. Try it again.
I like what you all are doing with MRUK. Last time I tried it for QR code scanning, it forced me to do a room scan, or at least I couldn't find a way to do MRUK just for QR code scanning and not make my users do a room scan. Is this like a known shortcoming? Am I doing it wrong? I would love to support QR code functionality with MRUK with that requirement.
Yeah. That should now be possible. I think we removed that block when we did the roomless, seamless anchors, seamless world locking, sorry. But check, if not, post an issue on first access and I'll pick it up and we'll make sure that that's enabled.
Okay. And then I know it's hard to talk about future plans, but the fiducial tracking stuff is really cool. But QR code tracking is slow, like in terms of frame rate and actually following an object and it's moving. Do you all have plans or commitments for supporting April tags or AR info markers or anything like that?
Yeah, right now we're only supporting the QR and stationary. Like you said, it's not good for tracking. I would like to get it on the roadmap of tracking, some of the more robust trackers for that purpose, but it's not on our roadmap right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I thought that the camera feature was really interesting, but I was a bit confused by the way that you implemented that. I figured, given what you said about helping people make content, that the goal would be like to make like social media ready content, maybe like a one-click Instagram button, maybe have like a camera, like a second rig, like the social media rig that players can activate. But I mean, I just couldn't believe so you designed it so that players like customize like the field of view and things. Like why? Why would you do it that way?
So I want to make sure I understand exactly what you're asking. We have the pass-through camera, which is the forward-facing cameras, and that's tracking what you have there. Were you talking about that or the virtual camera publisher?
The virtual camera publisher.
Okay. On the virtual camera publisher, you're not restricted. This is your camera that you can use. So within the game itself, you define your camera, you use it. What you follow is just the publishing interface. Now, that is restricted in terms of certain resolutions, simply because those are the ones we cast at right now. But it's your camera definition, not ours, that defines the characteristic of the camera itself.
You is like the developer or the player?
It's for the developer.
The developer can expose how they want the players to modify that camera.
I see. And is your goal to eventually make that, because like I noticed that the setup was kind of complicated. Is your goal to eventually make it maybe like a button or one of the mainline buttons?
Okay, so I think you're confusing two things. Are you referring to the video that I showed from Animal Company?
Yes.
Okay, so that's Animal Company's implementation. The UI around that, the fact they made it with the googly eyes and the butt cheeks on the back of the camera, that's totally a function of how they chose to implement it and what they wanted to do in theirs. A different game developer could do it with a one-click button, as simple as you want it, that would meet the needs of your particular game. But that's the game developer's decision, not ours. What we're doing is just providing the pipeline that allows them to then publish that out for sharing or for other purposes like that.
I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Joshua. And also, I want to ask a question about some game development tools. So currently, we're making a multiplayer and mixed reality game. So we found that if we want to record the game view runtime video, especially with the digital environment or digital object with the camera real words viewing, but I feel like it's pretty hard to get the recording, especially run the game in the VR goggles. And currently what we do is set the third player and looking the another two players running or play in the game. But we got the casting or the recording is pretty low quality for it's not similar with the VR goggles resolution. And I feel like, is there any tools or any features that can let easier to get the recording in?
So if you don't mind, maybe you just grab me right after this talk and we can talk about your particular implementation. I'm having a hard time hearing your question over the feedback. So just grab me right after this talk and I'll try and answer your question for you.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Hi, thanks for the talk. My game Haymaker is on Unreal 4.27. Is the virtual camera possibly going to be available through your guys' fork?
I doubt if we're going to take it back and do specific work on our side to support the 4.x versions, given where we are. However, as you know, it's open source, and this is a native API, so you can integrate with it. It's just you'll have to do the work yourself to do the integration.
And are there going to be benefits to it versus using live?
I'm sorry, what?
Are there going to be benefits to the virtual camera versus using the LIV, the live camera? I mean, are
Yeah,
there
yeah,
things that it can
because-
expose that they don't?
Right, because it will be consistent with all the other uses of it by other games and other interfaces. And as we expand out, I mean, we can't make any promises right now, but you can imagine that given our intent is to do sharing on social media and stuff, there might be more integrated interfaces for that coming at some point in the future.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hi guys. I have a question about Meta's MCP server.
Yes.
From my understanding, it works for all SDKs provided, right?
You can, so the Unity AI Gateway will work with,
Okay.
or are you talking about the Horizon OS MCP or the Unity specific one?
Oh, so that's my second question. So,
Okay.
Is there a difference between the one that you guys were showing, like the Meta XR Unity MCP server, like extension thing? Is that different from the Horizon OS or like?
Yes, it's different. So the Horizon OS MCP is really to get the information and connect to your device and act with your device. Hello. 1 second. There you go. All right. So the Horizon OS MCP is to get a quick search on information to get the information of what you want to do for your implementation and whatnot, where the Unity Gateway and the XR extensions is to interact directly with the Unity editor. So you can say, add a cube to your scene, and then the Unity Gateway will add the cube. If you're like, oh, I want to enable pass-through, or if I want to add aptics to my project, it's going to search from the Horizon OS MCP. If you combine everything, it's going to search the information on how to add, let's say, aptics and the right way to do it, and take that information, and your AI assistant will take that information and then convert it into basically how do you write the code or how do you create your game objects that are related to that.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your GDC.